Hi, and welcome to The Curling Show, the podcast that brings you interviews with the sport's top athletes and the people who shape the game. Brought to you by Fit to Curl, a sport-specific guide to training for the world's greatest game by Olympic gold medalist, Team Martin third, and CCA blogger, John Morris. Filled with programs designed by John for curlers of all abilities and fitness levels, and put together with some help from me, Dean Gemmell, Fit to Curl is not only a great way to get your body in curling shape, it also offers you a look at how one of the world's best players approaches the game. To get a copy for yourself or for that curler on your holiday list, visit fittocurl.com or your favorite pro shop. The Director of Public Relations at Goldline Curling Supplies, Erin Flowers, welcome to The Curling Show.
Thank you, Dean. It's a pleasure to be on here.
Well, I know you're in Vancouver, Erin, on a mix of a trip that's, I think, a bit of business, a bit of pleasure, a bit of curling in the margarita spiel. What's it like? You were in Vancouver a lot during the last year's Winter Games. What's it like to be back in that city?
Oh, it's fantastic to be back. I'm a huge fan of the West Coast, and obviously the Olympics bring back some wonderful memories, I think, for many people that are visiting for this spiel, actually. And, it's been fantastic. I really enjoyed out here. It's fun to see how much curling's exploding out here as well.
You do think there's a growth in the game in the Vancouver area?
Oh, I definitely do. I'm actually, it's a neat buzz out here when you go into different clubs because they're almost overwhelmed sometimes with the response. But I think that's a good predicament to be in.
Well, that's interesting because, for years, Vancouver, I think, sort of struggled with all the other recreational opportunities out there. So it's good to hear that curling is on the rise. Yeah,
it definitely is. And what's neat to hear, too, is that junior curling is really it's really sparking up. So that's obviously the future. So it's nice to see that you've got a nice mix of people really responding. But there's a couple clubs out here where the junior program is just absolutely flourishing.
Well, this is the post-Olympic year, Erin, and I think clubs everywhere, like you just mentioned in Vancouver, are enjoying the benefits of increased interest and membership. And I tend to think if they're not, they may be doing something not quite right. But all these new curlers don't have any curling equipment, of course. So as the season starts, just about everywhere, I'm guessing that you're seeing a bit of a sales increase.
Yeah, we are. It's actually been a great start for us. I'm sure the whole curling industry is benefiting from an Olympics not only happening in general, but happening in Canada. So it's definitely been a nice increase. It's been busy, of course. We're seeing a nice. It seems like our mid line is doing very well. The new curler kind of product is obviously really going over well with the general curling public.
Well, yeah, that would make sense. Priced right for new curlers. I think our new curlers are often looking for those mid-range shoes and brushes and things. Outside of Canada, have you seen much growth and demand outside of your home country?
Yeah, we have actually. We've seen a nice growth in Europe and also in the Asian countries. After the Olympics, we were blown away actually at Korea. We were getting these random, excellent orders from Korea in the spring, which you can't complain when the orders start to come in the spring ever in the curling business.
How many clubs do they have in Korea? Do you know?
I know of two. I know of 2 to 3. I could be easily corrected on that, but I know that there's a couple of them there for sure. And I have a hard time pronouncing the name of one of the cities. But it's quite popular, and they're huge Kevin Martin fans, which is very, very humorous to us.
I wonder why the Koreans
they want anything to do with Kevin.
Really? I wonder why the Koreans are big Kevin. Well, I mean, he's a gold medalist. He's probably the greatest curler of all time. I guess that helps. But it's a curious pick for the Koreans to suddenly like Kevin.
It is. Yeah, I know. Maybe he's a Korean chef, and none of us really know.
There you go. It seems to me that these new curlers, unlike many veterans, are eager to get into new equipment, as you've mentioned. You've talked about that they're into a mid-price line, which makes sense when you're starting a new sport. But are you optimistic that this next generation of curlers or this next group that's coming into the game now might be just a bit less, let's call it thrifty, than curlers have been in the past?
Oh yes, I love the impulsive generation, I would call them. Yeah, they're fantastic for all of retail, I believe, but and wholesale for that matter, because they end up retailing it. But they are definitely an enthusiastic group who aren't really. They kind of want the best right away. So I talk about having the midline selling well, but our carbon fiber, which is our most expensive brush, is flying out. A lot of the times the young kids, they just want what they see on TV, and our competitive market is really, the forerunners for what a lot of these kids see.
Last year was a big year for shoes in the marketplace. You brought out a new shoe, the Podium Gold. Balance Plus introduced a new shoe, the 500. Asham added another version to its Grand Slam line. You've just mentioned brooms. What's the big equipment story this year? Is it carbon fiber brooms?
It would be, but I think that our shoes are taking off better than we could have ever anticipated, which is fantastic. The Martin boys will be wearing our shoes this year, which is pretty exciting for us. Obviously, they weren't going to make a huge shoe change going into an Olympic bust the last couple of years, but they've had some good influence on our new podium line. We did bring out the Podium Gold last year, and now we've brought out the mid line and the bronze as well, which has been successful.
You mentioned spring orders from Korea, and one of the conundrums for both clubs seeking members and equipment makers seeking sales is that a lot of our curling events, the big ones that are on television, in Canada at least, and even the World Championships, are packed towards right at the end of the curling season. Is that one reason that your company has been involved with the Capital One Grand Slam, and a series that spreads big curling events out throughout the season?
Yes, we're really, the partnership with the Grand Slam has been fantastic for us. We definitely jumped on board. Last year was a successful year for everybody, I believe. Obviously, having the Olympics, we had a couple more events, I should say. One being in our backyard in Mississauga, which was great. The competitive market, Goldline, has kind of come in with a bit of a bang, and we're excited about how it's going. They do have a nice spread of events, including the last event of the year, which is the Players' Championship, and that's always a fun closure to be a part of to the entire season.
You mentioned as the World Cup of Curling last year was in Mississauga. This year, the Capital One Grand Slam events. There will be one in Windsor and one in Oshawa, sort of surrounding in Southern Ontario, not quite Toronto. What about the state of the game in Toronto? It's always a tough sell, curling in Toronto. I don't know what it is with Torontonians, but it seems to be doing okay, but do you get any sense that maybe Torontonians are getting over their snobby attitude towards curling?
Well, I wish I could say 100% yes, but I don't think we have. I happen to be a GTA, the surrounding area of Toronto, and I was really happy when the Slam in Mississauga did well. It's promising for the future. To get an actual event in Toronto, I'm just still don't know if I think it's snobby mixed with a giant order of insanely busy, and people just don't know. There's so much going on when it comes to sports and to entertainment in the city of Toronto that to attend a curling event is it's non-optional, unfortunately, for a lot of people. Although it blows my mind at how many clubs we have and how well they're doing, obviously, in a year like this, and how many curlers we have, and we still can't seem to have some of the major, like the CCA or the WCF, aren't always interested in having an event there due to the popularity of the sport in the area.
Well, and it's such a big risk, right? I mean, there initially that World Cup of Curling was talking about being in the ACC, and you take on something like that, and it's you're really rolling the dice. So I can understand a bit of the reluctance to head right into Toronto. Of course, the other thing that people at the CCA talk a lot about, and is especially relevant to Toronto, the most ethnically mixed city in the world, according to some counts. Do you see any of the outreach to different ethnic groups that haven't typically curled? Do you see any of that taking root at all?
Yes, I actually have, and that excites me because I have grown up in a melting pot, and it's something to me that is a huge part of the sport in somewhere like Toronto, is to get all different cultures involved, and I'm really excited to see. I think that kudos to Chad McMullen, who's doing the Rocks and Rings, I believe it's called.
Yeah, Rocks and Rings.
In the schools. And I think that's a huge, huge help to getting the kids that are young, in these different cultures, and sometimes second generation, starting to see what's what kids do in Canada versus different areas of the world. I personally curl with a dear friend of mine who is Indian, and he is absolutely excited about going to the 2014 Olympics on behalf of India, considering he does think that he has a good chance. So we have I have a very fun, eclectic group that I curl with who are from all over, and I hope to see more of that in the curling clubs.
Hey, I had a guy named Paul Lucas on the show last week who writes a blog and writes for ESPN.com about uniforms. So I had him on to talk about curling apparel since he tried curling last year. Now, apparel is another big chunk of your business. I know you've tried with striped pants and everything else. Any chance that people are buying anything other than black pants this season?
Oh, well, of course, with the Norwegian pant exposure at the Olympics, everybody still asks, are you carrying the pants? Are you carrying anything? And I unfortunately have to say that 99% of curling pants that will go out in the whole industry, I believe, will be black pants. I wish I could say that we had a bit more. We did do pinstripes, and they went over very well. We did a pinstripe pant last year, and we unfortunately had some issues with our supplier in getting the same pant this year, which has disappointed many. But the pinstripes went over very well, and they were obviously still base black, but they had a fine line of gray. And, the pants are great. We have a neat pant line. Apparel, as you mentioned before, has definitely, we've kind of scaled down in some form, but also built up a bit more of the performance wear when it comes to how we are designing our clothing now.
You know, I would give kudos to all the apparel makers for the improvements in pants. I know you've in the past mentioned that the curling industry probably owes yoga a thanks for the improvement in women's pants, which were ghastly in the past.
Yes. The women's pants have had some tough times. Thankfully, I think all of us, as like I mentioned, all of us being in the industry, have recognized that the influence of yoga has helped out with some of the fashion in the sense of, you've obviously got to keep something warm, and that's the big battle, is having it fashionable, warm, and comfortable. And we have a pair of pants called the Ladies Allure, which have done very well for us, but we're constantly actually in the business of trying to get new ideas in that area. We're actually, which is kind of a neat announcement, working with Kaylin Park next year. She's a designer out of the West Coast who's quite a competitive curler. And
Kevin Park's daughter, yeah.
Yes, exactly. And she's been fantastic and influential in where we're heading with our pant line.
Well, this guy, Paul Lucas, said he thought that his take on curling as an outsider is that it seems like there's still a bit of a search on for the essential curling look, which I think might be true to some degree. But I do give, like I say, I give credit to all the apparel makers, you and Balance Plus and Asham, because I think it's improved quite a bit in the last, since 2005. That's when you see the pictures of Jennifer Jones making that shot against Jen Han and the pants they made that team wear. Whew.
Yes.
So
yeah, that was a tough call. I think they should have been paid for just wearing those myself.
Well, yeah,
but,
I think
it was a tough. It was tough there for a while.
Well, anyway, at least
quite helped either.
We've got better trousers in curling now, anyway. So
yes,
that's
we
good.
do.
All right, Erin, we finished with the run back. I give you a topic, you give me your thoughts in 1 to 3 words.
All right.
The possibility of a Jennifer Jones-Kathy O final in Winnipeg today.
Wow, amazing.
I should just check here and see how it was shaping up like it could happen. Anyways, there's a possibility. Kathy was ahead and Jennifer was tied last time I looked. Goldline trailer hauler Debbie McCormick.
Oh, fantastic and valuable.
The surge in the strength of the Canadian dollar versus the U.S. buck.
Very exciting.
Very exciting for you, not so much for me.
Yes, I know.
I would recommend that any Spiels in Ontario that have my U.S. check, they should have cashed it earlier or owe them money. The new Men with Brooms show on CBC.
Tried to watch it.
Well, yeah, we got it. Hopefully, it'll improve or whatever. But
yeah, Canadian television has a little ways to go.
Yeah, well, it's funny. I don't understand the inability of Canada to develop television because it's so rich in music and I think films and television seems to be a tough nut for Canada.
You know what though? I have to admit, I haven't given it a real chance. I only could watch a bit of it. I've been pretty busy and haven't had a chance, and I need to give it a chance. Well,
yeah, I not that there aren't some great shows on Canadian television. I should qualify that as a guy who's down here with a Canadian satellite dish and watches a lot of Canadian TV.
Yes, well, they're marketing that Men with Brooms very well.
Yeah, they are.
All around Toronto, and actually out in Vancouver here, I'm seeing signs for it all over the place.
Well, that's good to hear. Eve Muirhead.
The future.
The future, yeah. Well, Eve is exciting. It's exciting to have her in the game. And finally, playing a team from Plainfield Curling Club at the Margarita Spiel in Vancouver.
I'll never be the same.
Never. Well, there you go. My fellow Plainfield Curling Club members. The Margarita, for people who don't know, is a big
shout out to them.
Yeah, good. The Margarita Spiel is a big international event, I guess, right? So.
Yes, it is, actually. It's my first. I'm not actually a margarita, but a friend of mine was, and I had a lot of fun there. It was a great event. Could be hurting for a few days, but so far so good.
Yeah, it's a traveling band of international curlers that seem to go all over the world once a year, so good for them. Good for you, Erin. I give everybody a chance to name their sponsors, of course, on the show, but I know who your sponsor would be. So I think we'll say thanks to Goldline, and let you enjoy the rest of your day in Vancouver.
Well, thank you very much, Dean. It's been a pleasure, and I look forward to seeing you during the curling season.
That's Erin Flowers on the Curling Show, part of what was supposed to be Equipment and Apparel Week, but is now more like, Equipment and Apparel Month with some other interviews mixed in. So it goes. But now that you've heard some more about curling gear, get yourself in curling shape by following the programs in Fit to Curl by Olympic gold medalist and Team Martin third John Morris. Available at fittocurl.com and at Better Curling Pro Shops. As always, thanks for listening.